All right, so last year, you were the Lakers seer.
Yes.
You were seeing the Lakers go on a run that nobody else saw them potentially going on.
Prescient.
And you saw it deep into the, or early in the season, I guess.
Nostramatics right there.
Nostramatics. I like it. We should make that gear, Nostramatics. So you said you hadn't seen it yet.
Yep.
Last night, 4 in a row now, without LeBron, 2 19-point comebacks, double overtime in Milwaukee. You seeing anything yet? What are you seeing? You seeing something yet?
6-4 without LeBron is a remarkable number for the Lakers. And last night's game was awesome, right?
It was fun, man. It was a blast to watch.
I wouldn't blame a lot of people if they turned the game off at the end of the third quarter. Lakers were down. They go on a 27-14 run in the fourth to force the overtime. AD, great. Reeves made shots. Russell made threes. It was incredible to watch. And it was as much an indictment of what Milwaukee's doing as it was praiseworthy for the Lakers. But I still can't get behind them like I did last year. You look at these last 4 games, and their defensive rating over the last 4 games is top 3 in the NBA. That's great. That's conference finals level. That's the Lakers of last year level. But if you look at the totality, say since the All-Star break, they're 26th in defensive efficiency since the All-Star break. That's not going to win you a first-round series. That might not even get you out of the play-in tournament. So I still can't predict which version of the Lakers is going to show up defensively, because defensively is where it gets done in the playoffs. They didn't advance the conference finals last year because they had some electric offense. They advanced because they were elite defensively. If they can get back to that, they've got a shot at duplicating last year's success. If they can't, if they're more like the team we've seen for most of the season, they're going to have a hard time just getting into the postseason.
Well, they kind of did it last night, right? I mean, I think the score at the end of regulation was 101-101, which sometimes is a third quarter score.
It was a fun game.
Right.
It was a brutal game in some ways, too. I mean, the Lakers got to think 11 points off their bench. I mean, AD had 30-something. Russell Reeves had a bunch. Spencer Dinwiddie was like 1 for 8 from the floor. Like, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game.
Right.
But that's the kind of game the Lakers have to win. They've got to grind out wins against these other upper-tier teams.
But I think we're out of the woods in terms of them somehow, like, say, Houston catching them, right? I mean, you're out of the woods now in terms of, like, we're going to see them play in at the very least.
I believe so. I think the biggest threat to Houston's biggest opportunity is going to be Golden State, right? Because the Warriors are not playing well, and Houston, remarkably, since Alperen Sengun, arguably their best player, went down, has just taken off. Jalen Green's numbers since Sengun went out have been off the charts. So because they play so well at home, and because Jalen Green is playing so well right now, you have to give the Rockets a decent chance of catching up to Golden State.
Right, and then I mean, we'll talk about Golden State in a second, though. But I do want to pull on the string that you kind of left out there about this being as much of an indictment on what's going on with the Doc Rivers coached Milwaukee Bucks. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, they've just been so uneven. They have had some great performances, some great stretches where they have played elite defense, and then they have had these stumbles where they're getting beat by teams they should beat, which includes the Lakers. I mean, that's a game they should have won last night. The consistency from the Bucks just isn't there. And I know Doc Rivers is doing everything he can to get them on the same page, especially defensively. I wrote about them in the magazine this month. I mean, they have pared down everything they're doing. They have simplified everything. What they do defensively, it's all one basic system. What they do offensively, whole bunch of pick and roll for Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So they are doing the right things, but it's so hard to get everybody on the same page when you introduce a new coach with new philosophies at the midseason point of the year. So what we're seeing is not great for Milwaukee, but it's not all that surprising either.
So by the end of the year, I guess you're saying, would 2020 hindsight, the Bucks should have hired Doc from jump? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, yeah. I mean, with the benefit, there's a lot of things that went into the hiring of Adrian Griffin. Number one, we have to remember that Griff was a deserving coach to get that job. He had been an assistant coach for a number of years. He had been an assistant coach under Nick Nurse, who won a championship. I mean, Adrian Griffin paid his dues to get that job. And Giannis, when he met with him, was connected. There was a connection between Giannis and Griffin. That played a big role in that team hiring Griff. But when you look back at it, the idea of bringing in a coach with no resume, at least as a head coach, to run a team with a championship window that's really only 3 years wide, right? You've got Giannis, Dame, Chris Middleton. There's like a 3-year championship window. They should have brought in a more established coach, a more accomplished coach. And even though Doc Rivers fizzled out in Philadelphia, didn't end well for him with the 76ers, he makes a lot more sense for Milwaukee, given where it is, than Adrian Griffin did.
Chris Mannix here from Sports Illustrated on the Rich Eisen Show. What ails the Warriors, and is it fixable?
Shot making. It's the biggest problem right now.
With Steph Curry on the team, man.
Well, I mean,
you would never say that about Steph and Clay.
The problem isn't Steph. The problem is in the non-Steph Curry minutes, which have been problematic for the Lakers for a number of years. But in those non-Steph Curry minutes, they're not getting anybody to step up. I mean, look at that game they played against Minnesota the other night, where they had a lead going into the fourth quarter. Steph goes out, sits for a while because Steve Kerr didn't like playing him too many minutes after he played 35 in the previous game. They just got run over. It went from, I think, a 1-point lead to an 8-point hole they were in before Steph got back in the lineup. We know that Klay Thompson is not the player he used to be. He has taken a step back. Age has caught up with him a little bit. Andrew Wiggins has been wildly inconsistent all season long. He's been a disappointment for that team. Kuminga's been good, but he's not ready to take on that type of responsibility. They just don't have consistent shot makers, bucket getters that you can rely on to score in the fourth quarter of games. And across the league, Rich, everybody's got them. Everybody's got 2 or 3 different guys that they can count on to make a shot. Even Minnesota, with Karl Anthony Towns out, has got bucket getters that they can go to, whether it is Edwards, Mike Conley. Those guys made shots against the Warriors in that game. The Warriors just don't have that extra option to go to when Steph is either off the floor or if defenses are loading up on him.
So it's not fixable, what you're saying.
I don't see it. I mean, they're not on a good trajectory right now, and I don't see how, with this current roster, they're going to reverse that. Like, if you get them in the play-in, there's so many experienced guys there, anything can happen. But that play-in, like the play-in tournament, right now looks like Adam Silver's fever dream, right? Like, it's because you've got the play-in tournament,
Warriors and Lakers,
Suns with Kevin Durant in that mix. Like, if you're Silver, and I'm just guessing that the NBA in the next television deal is going to parse this out. It's going to say, like, the play-in tournament is something separate. We're going to sell this to whomever. The year before they're doing that, if you get those 3 teams in that play-in tournament, the rating is going to be through the roof, no matter what. So this, I'm sure the Lakers, Warriors, Suns want to be better, but for Adam Silver, this is exactly what they're looking for.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.